This lesson summarizes the advantages and disadvantages of using nuclear and biogas. Nuclear energy and biogas. Let us begin with advantages of using nuclear energy. As we said earlier, nuclear energy is extracted from uranium. So advantage number one of using nuclear energy, it generates strong electricity. It generates strong electricity compared maybe to solar energy. It is the best alternative for countries without other sources or types of power. For example, countries which are not blessed with rivers with big volumes, rapids and falls, oil can resort to use of nuclear energy. It does not depend on weather like solar energy. Then what are the disadvantages of using nuclear energy? It causes dangerous accidents. Dangerous accidents because it explodes. It leads to use of weapons of mass destruction, atomic bombs, which are terrorizing the whole world today. It is expensive in terms of processing it. Uranium is not also cheap. It requires high technology. People to process it in atomic uranium and nuclear industries need to be having high technology. It is not common everywhere, maybe like solar, firewood, etc. It's rare. It contaminates or pollutes the environment because of dangerous gases that join the atmosphere. It is not renewable. You cannot renew it. When you exhaust it, that is the end. Uranium is a mineral. Once it gets exhausted, full stop. Advantages of using biogas. Biogas is extracted from animal wastes and human wastes. So advantage number one, it is cheap. I think if you compare it with nuclear, if you compare it with hydroelectric power, biogas proves to be cheaper because it is extracted from cheap materials. It is common everywhere. These materials are common everywhere, therefore the type of energy is also common. It requires less technology to process biogas compared to processing nuclear energy and hydroelectric power. It does not involve dangerous accidents like hydro and maybe nuclear. It is easy and simple to use compared to firewood. You see, every point depends on how you compare it. If you compare it with another idea from another type of power, it gains more meaning than when you say that it requires less technology only. You can compare it with other types to have a bigger meaning. It is faster. Biogas is faster than firewood. It is smarter compared to firewood because it does not involve production of smoke and soot. It saves environment because it does not involve cutting of trees like firewood. Disadvantages of biogas. It is somehow expensive in terms of buying some tools to use, even building tanks, underground tanks, where to collect the waste. Those tanks are expensive. and it has its own engineers also. It requires some technology to process it. Those engineers in biogas, they are also some expensive and they need to be having some technology to use. It is not very strong. It is not very strong. So you cannot use biogas in a strong industry. You cannot congest it. For example, it's not multi-purpose. It cannot do many activities at the same time. You cannot charge, you cannot iron, you cannot light the house, you cannot put on a fridge. So it is weak compared to hydro. Limited waste to use. Sometimes some schools or other communities begin this project of biogas, but it stops in the middle because you find human waste is less, animal waste is less, so it disturbs it. It is always short-lived and requires maintenance. Thank you.